My thesis, titled Cultural Changes and Literary Representation and Investigation into Social Identity, focuses on the exploration of identity through the lenses of psychoanalysis, sociology, and literature. The individual is a highly complex entity influenced by numerous factors such as upbringing, the people they have around them, parents, teachings, and education. These are all elements that impact their existence in some way. In each of Erickson's 8 stages of the life cycle, the individual faces at least an obstacle to overcome. If these are not overcome, they would result in lingering issues, a lack in the course of the individual lives, and these cause consequences. Indeed, Erickson's analysis deals with the concept of psychosocial identity and aligns it with the entire evolutionary process. Erickson systematized this development by corresponding the period of childhood with the progress of a moral orientation. In adolescence, there is an ideological orientation. In adulthood, the emergence of an ethical sense of course. In this phase, the fifth stage, which is the most crucial, a crisis arises leading to role confusion. Individuals seek to the reason for their existence, their true self, and their role in society. The acquisition of a positive sense of identity requires the exploration of different identities and the synthesis of these experiences into a coherent and stable sense of self. Sociology of generation is defined according to Kalmanem, a sociologist from the early 20th century who studied the relationships that unite idea and doctrines with historical social situation as individuals who experience the same common experiences. There are different generations that belong to distinct eras and thus have faced common difficulties of various historical periods. Today, there are 3 or 4 different generations coexisting within the same time frame. Often, there are generational conflicts, and the ones who create them are simply individuals who do not like the young, who do not respect cycles, who do not accept leaving their place, out of envy for youth. Behind this thinking is an illusion. They believe that the youth was better than the current one, and that therefore deserve more. By creating this hatred and tearing down the new generations, making them believe they are worth less than those of the past, they create a situation of instability, prejudice, and discomfort, causing this new generation to close themselves off. This causes fear of expressing themselves freely, of not being understood, perhaps because those on the other side in the past could not do the same. We often live in a dualism between the virtual and real, much like that in Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest, between the country and the city, where today people hide their sense, their person, their gender, to harm others, or simply feeling protected behind the screen, being themselves, hoping to meet someone who can understand and solve. This leads to the creation of masks, wearing a different identity every day and thus hiding one's essence to be accepted by those around them. As Pirandello said, we are one, 100,000, no one. One because we see ourselves in certain way, 100,000 because every person who meet has a different vision, and finally no one because we end up losing our identity and hiding behind masks. These are important during the adolescent phase. Parental love is fundamental, but it often falls short. What is not lacking the concern for their child that they might fall, get hurt, not study, etc. But this is not love. What does it mean, love a person? As Gabriella Tupini said, loving it in its entirety means understanding, comprehending the other, giving them the opportunity to express their opinion, their being. Unfortunately, today people are more concerned in what others might think. What is missing is empathy. There is no more empathy in this so-called modern society. We are transforming into a large population of robots where feelings, the ones that make us feel alive, are turned off because we are too preoccupied with material goods, consumerism, and materialism. We no longer look at others, those who need it the most, those who suffer, leaving the world in good condition for future generations. We're becoming more standardized, and very often it is the nations themselves that try to conform perhaps to the United States by following the trends Social networks have invaded everyone's lives, and sometimes individuals become dependent on them, unable to detach themselves, continuing to live their virtual lives. Globalization has profoundly influenced the use of languages worldwide. It has led to greater cultural homogeneity at the expense of traditional linguistic differences, driven by technological advancement, economic development, and globalization itself, which promote integration and exchanges between different areas of the world. Education, healthy upbringing, multilingualism, and knowledge of various global culture are essential to understanding others, to having an open mind, and to evolve as an individual compared to what is otherwise implied. All this gives people the ability to comprehend. China is a country with a millennial culture that is reflected in its traditions, still deeply felt by the population and renewed year after year with a nationalist identity. Lu Xun, a famous Chinese writer of the 20th century, is considered the father of modern Chinese literature for the important role he played in the language. His literary style is distinguished by the use of traditional vernacular language, by Hua, which helped to modernize and make Chinese literary language more accessible. Lu Xun introduced an innovative approach to storytelling, using clear and direct writing that reflect the social and cultural transformations of China in its time. This reflects his desire to reach a wider audience and give a voice to those who never had one. The main themes of Lu Xun's works are the lives of the lower classes of society, criticism of tradition and culture, denunciation of corruption and inequality, and the struggle for social justice. His work, Diary of Madman, is an example of this, where he describes a Chinese society as cannibalistic and masked behind traditional values, a metaphor for the hierarchical and destructive relationships of traditional Chinese society. He highlights how identity is closely linked to social and economic conditions. Many of his characters struggle to assert their dignity and worth in a context of oppression and inequality. Famous is the quote from Diary of a Madman: "You must change from the bottom of your hearts. Know that in the future there will be no place in this world for man-eaters." Power, often occupying such an important role, uses this as an excuse to bully others, and when this happens, we all lose something because it gives others permission to do the same. We all live close together, we all people, and these are simply concepts that help categorize us. The categorization of individuals is today's problem. Power tries to convey to the people the concept of categorizing every individual, that every person must belong to a category, a group that shares the same characteristics, and then through any pretext make them hated by others so they can keep their job going. Otherwise, it becomes a problem because they are not controllable. We must